Hello, this is Paul Chek. Welcome to my video blog. Today our topic is slow death by meat. Hey, I'm a meat lover too, so don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say go vegetarian or vegan or go crazy or become a fanatic. But I am saying there's some real concerns about eating meat in general and eating too much meat no matter how good it is. So to begin, I wanted to point out that you can learn how to fine-tune your diet based on what I call your primal pattern type, which is my simplified version of metabolic typing. And remember, the suggestions for the different types are starting points. I show a diagram in there called the tachometer diagram that shows you how to fine-tune your meals and your meal proportions based on optimal response to a meal versus showing you common negative responses to too much carbohydrate or too much flesh foods. So start right there. There's also an audio of a presentation I give called Primal Pattern Eating, where I give you some very, very helpful tips on how to fine-tune the ratio of animal foods to plant foods and how to choose things that your body wants and get confirmation from your body or the consciousness within you, or through muscle testing. So many people have found that kind of coaching extremely helpful. So if you want some deeper solutions that I can offer in this short little blog, go there, chekinstitute.com, C-H-E-K institute.com. How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy is there, or on Amazon.com. So today I want to share a few of my concerns about meat in general, and about eating too much meat, which is extremely common, particularly in the Western culture. Some of the things we should consider about meat. First of all, meat that is commercially farmed is very well known to be and quite famous amongst those that are health experts and people that study this stuff like myself for being injected. The animals are injected with antibiotics, veterinary drugs, and steroids. One of the very, very strong conclusions about the antibiotic resistance problems we're having in hospitals all over the world now is that it's because the same basic antibiotics that are used for people are used for animals, and we're getting overexposed to those drugs through the food, through the meat we're eating. So that's one concern. Another concern is that these animals are given steroids to cause rapid muscle gains. A commercially raised animal, a commercially raised cow, for example, or steer, reaches slaughter in 1 year, or maturity for slaughter in 1 year, and on average, if you raise it normally, it takes about 4 years. So it's a lot faster. Now, I'm just remembering those facts from a long time ago, but even if I'm wrong, the steroids speed the rate at which that thing puts on muscle mass and how much it eats very, very quickly. Other things is that one thing that people don't often pay attention to is the fact that the drug companies that make the drugs for animals are the same companies that make them for humans, and in many ways there are drugs used for animals that are the same drugs that are used for humans. So not only are we getting overexposed to these things through the meat, but it creates a high level of toxicity in the animals. And it is also potentially problematic because if your immune system starts to react to drugs coming into your body through meat, then your body can then have unfavorable reactions or no reaction at all when you actually may need that drug from a physician. So those are important considerations. Now, most people aren't aware of this, but if you study what's allowed or what is acceptable by most government agencies, you will find that commercially raised animals have been fed and are in many cases approved to be fed such things as sawdust, plastic chips, sewage, engine oil, dead animal remains, poor quality grains. Most of these grains are either not saleable to human beings because they have high levels of fungal mycotoxins in them, which makes them dangerous to eat for human consumption. So when grain producers have a lot of grain that they can't sell for human consumption, they're sold to feedlots, and then those animals are eating very poor quality grains full of mycotoxins, which gets trapped in their body. And remember, the body of an animal stores, just like you, stores toxins in fat that it can't process. But the animal producers, the meat producers, the ranchers don't care, because they sell the animals by the pound and no one does body fat checks on these animals. So the bigger they get and the fatter they get, regardless of how you do it, the more they weigh, the more money they can make off their product. So it's a pretty dangerous game going on. Okay? Also, my experience in coaching untold numbers of people with health problems is that if a person's gluten sensitive, they often have reactions to eating meats that were fed a lot of grains that are gluten-containing grains. So anybody that's been on a gluten-free diet, a gluten-free diet or an antifungal diet for any length of time, but seems like they're not having a good response, try cutting out any flesh foods that have been fed any kind of grain, and oftentimes that is the missing element that can make a big difference in your life. Unethical farming practices is also a big concern with this. Remember, every dollar you spend on this, you're funding unethical farming practices. These animals are often raised in very tight quarters, stand and live and eat in their own urine and feces. So imagine what your life would be like and what kind of an emotional state that animal would be in. And remember, emotions are a form of energy, and those types of vibrations can and do get trapped in or come contained in the flesh of the animal you eat, as shaman and healers have been telling us for a very long time. So unethical practices such as feeding animals like I just said, drugging animals like I just said, and containing them like I just said, is a real concern, because these practices also have a huge impact on planet Earth, which really needs our love and attention right now. And when you look at the damage done by commercial farming of every kind of animal and even birds, it's pretty shocking. If you go to The Ecologist, look up the journal The Ecologist and search around in there, and you'll get some pretty shocking information. So we have to remember that we must care for the earth. Commercial farming poisons the earth and the water by massive amounts of urinary release from the animals and fecal material being dumped off, and it sinks into the ground. And in many places where there's commercial farms, the groundwater is poisoned all around it. In some states, like North Carolina, where there's a lot of this type of growing, there's tremendous problems with water toxicity. So the drinking water can get very badly contaminated. There's a lot of chemicals being used on these animals that end up in the earth and end up then in somebody's food eventually. As I said, the poop is toxic, and sick animals are very, very well known to carry a lot of parasites. When people eat a lot of commercial food, they significantly enhance the likelihood that they're going to get a parasite infection. And in my experience, the grand majority of people that are eating commercial foods in general have weak immune systems from all the toxicity in their bodies, and they run around from doctor to doctor getting pills often for trying to alleviate the symptoms that go hand in hand with eating too much flesh food in general, which is sort of a Western habit that has led to a lot of money being made off drugs, surgery, and alternative health care too, because so many people keep running around for help because they don't realize they're making themselves sick by eating sick animals and eating too much meat in general. Okay? Now, for those of you that think you may have parasite or fungal infection concerns, you can look at my DVD self-help program titled Healing Fungal and Parasite Infections, The Absolute Essentials. You can get the DVDs with the manual if you want to do it as a correspondence course, and you will learn how to identify if you have a fungal or parasite infection, and I will give you the absolute essentials that you need to understand to heal yourself from that, re-strengthen your immune system, and become much more aware of the dangers of living like most people who watch too much television. Now, some tips. Number one, meat is by far the most toxic thing that goes into most people's mouths when it comes to diet. So when people approach me and say, Paul, I've read your book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, but how do I do that on my budget? I always tell them, if you have limited funds, always spend your money on the highest quality meat you can get. Organic, free-range meat, and not what I call fake free-range, where they just let the cows run around for the last few days, or where they say it's organic, but they feed them grains to fatten them up, and then stop feeding them grains just for the last 90 days. I'm talking about meat raised by farmers and understand meat and understand animals and respect the earth and respect animals. And if you have to do a little research on your own and phoning up suppliers and asking, you can go to places, for example, U.S. Wellness Meats is an example of a place you can get high quality meat shipped to you. But ask the farmers, ask the vendors. If you go to a store, ask the buyer, where does this come from? Contact them and ask pointed questions. Or you're going to be asking pointed questions to a physician when you're sick or have a disease. So do it preventatively. Remember, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So highest quality meat you can get. Now, there can be very high quality meat available from local farmers that are not certified organic, that do not use chemicals. So your best place to go looking for that is farmers markets. And I've seen lots of great stuff. You can always tell when you're eating good meat. One, it feels good in you. Two, there's a definite depth, a richness, a completely different dimension of flavor and satiation that does not exist in commercially raised meats. Once you know that taste, I was raised on a farm, so I'm intimate with it. I don't care what it says on the label. Within seconds, I know whether it's real or whether it's just another one of these bogus, fake organic certifications. So eat high quality meat, even if you have a low budget. Follow the directions in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, for cleaning produce properly, and always seek the best you can get with the money you can afford. And you can also look at Joe Rushton, one of my instructors, Joe Rushton's beautiful book called Rocket Fuel on a Budget. And that can give you a lot of great tips for eating the Eat, Move, and Be Healthy way on a low budget. Some of the common body reactions to eating too much meat, no matter what the quality is, and this also includes fish, so anything with a set of eyeballs I'm talking about right now. One, energy tends to decrease as you get too much flesh food in your body. Too much undigested protein is not good. Two, mental clarity goes down. One of the reasons that these two happen is because you get too much toxins, and some of the byproducts of breaking meat down can be toxic to the body. For example, clinically, when I'm looking at someone and I want to test to see if they're eating too much meat, I can run a test that tells me how much urinary indican there is. And that gives me an indication of how much meat they're able to handle or not. Also remember, one of the byproducts of breaking meat down is uric acid. So if a person eats too much meat, they get uric acid in their body. It makes their joints ache and really puts a load on their detoxification systems. So decreased energy, decreased mental clarity, decreased digestive function. Most people today have weak digestion from eating cooked, shelved, packaged, enzymatically dead food. So your body can run out of enzymes. I found the average person that I coach by about the age 30 to 35 is already giving strong signs of enzyme deficiency and needs the support of a digestive enzyme and coaching on their diet so they can rehabilitate their stomach and their entire gut tube. So when it comes to the issue of enzyme deficiency, remember, always start your meal. If you have any digestive trouble whatsoever, always start your meal with as much raw, leafy green vegetables as you can, because that brings a lot of fresh enzymes into your body and it helps the body digest the meat more effectively. Also remember, pineapple, even raw, it's very good raw, helps break meat down, and so does papaya. So if you want to add a little sweetness to your meat and you don't have a fungal infection or a parasite infection, because they'll live off that sugar real nicely, then use those in your vegetables or with your vegetables, because they're very, very powerful aids to digestion. if you want to test yourself to see if you might need digestive enzymes, a simple thing you can do is squeeze a lemon into a glass. Right when you begin your meal, drink about 1/3 of that lemon juice, chase it with a touch of water if you need to. Halfway through the meal, drink another 1/3. At the end, drink another 1/3. If you feel noticeably better, have more energy, don't feel as heavy in the gut, it's an indication you probably would be supported with a quality digestive enzyme. And most of your local health food stores have a variety, and someone there can give you some good suggestions. Constipation is highly common when you're eating too much flesh food. Constipation is a real problem because if you're constipated too long, then you get all sorts of bacteria hatching in your body that are probably toxic for the body, and you get a lot of parasites hatching in your gut, and that causes lots of problems. We don't have time to talk about that, but my DVDs will show you. Joint aches is common from too much uric acid in the body. And also, if your digestion's not working well, you get undigested proteins in that make it past the liver, get into general circulation. So one of your tips is if you're having this problem, the muscles or the joints, the muscles and joints that you use the most, so if you're a carpenter, you're likely to find that when you wake up in the morning you have soreness around those joints because the immune system's attacking the undigested food particles in around the areas where the circulation becomes so small that only 1 or 2 blood platelets at a time can fit through the capillaries there, and undigested food particles can be significantly larger than blood platelets, so they get stuck there. The immune system comes at night, attacks them, there's an inflammatory process that causes aching. In fact, anybody with any kind of arthritis at all should try going on a very low meat or vegetarian diet for a while and monitoring to see how the inflammation responds, and oftentimes it can completely go away, and then you monitor your meat consumption and meat quality thereafter because now you know the pain teacher's right there to guide you. An itchy rectum is a common side effect of eating too much meat, particularly if your body has developed an intolerance to it and you do not know it. I commonly see people coming to me with the complaint of an itchy rectum when they have pork in their diet, especially commercial pork. Although it can be beef or almost any meat, I most commonly see it with pork. Second most common is beef. And that's an immune reaction. Swelling in the body. If your body cannot process the amount of flesh you're eating, you get too much dead protein in your body, and dead proteins are water binding. So once you start getting too much dead protein in your body, you notice the body starts to swell. That's not good. That overloads the immune system. It also overloads the lymphatic system, and the immune system will attack that dead protein in your body and often produce inflammation, which elevates your body temperature. And instead of drinking water, most people drink more sugar liquids, soda pop, cold stuff, anything except what they should be drinking, which is water. Skin problems are very, very common because meat is much, much harder to break down than produce is. So if a person's not effectively breaking it down or they're eating too much, the side effect is you can't break anything down effectively. And whenever you can't break food down effectively, if it overwhelms your detoxification systems, the body pushes it out the skin, which is an organ of detoxification. So as a general rule of thumb, when you see stuff coming out of your skin and you're getting a lot of pimples, I want you to consider that that's about the same thing in your body as a toilet being backed up. You flush the toilet and it comes right over the bowl onto the floor. So the organs of detoxification push stuff out of the skin, the surface of the toilet, onto the floor, out where you can see it, to the degree that you're dirty and toxic on the inside. And there's not a single cream sold on any infomercial in the world that will do anything but suppress those toxins that are coming out of your body to help you heal and to keep your organs protected. So covering up zits and using all these fancy creams is also part of the very mindset that led to this whole problem altogether, which is bury the problem instead of pay attention to my body. Okay, so I think that covers it. Also, remember to do the poop check, man. Look at my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. I got all the pictures of all the cute little poopies in there, tell you exactly what it means. But if you're eating too much meat, some tips are that your poops are likely to sink and they're likely to stink. If your poops don't smell like healthy organic soil and they start getting darker than a normal light brown earthy color, and they sink, that's a very good sign you got too much flesh foods in your diet and that your body's getting toxic from it. Simply decrease the meat, increase the quality of the meat, and add as much raw vegetables. If you can't handle too much raw vegetables, then lightly cook your vegetables and find the right ratio of raw and cooked. Keep the ratio coming progressively up until you have poops that look just like the poopy policeman in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, which are poops that float, smell healthy. You can flush them down easily because they're not overloaded with fat. If you eat too much meat, you can't break down fats properly because your gallbladder's not working well. Then your poops get very light in color, almost like sandy, and I call them the Olympic swimmers. All that fat makes them very hard to flush down. So 3 flushes later, you got this thing swimming the rapids, and you're like, what the hell's going on down there? So if you get yourself an Olympic swimmer or a sinker and a stinker, you're well on your way to some serious toxicity. Your skin's going to look bad, and you're probably going to have all these problems. And if your skin doesn't look bad, it's probably because you got it covered with layers of makeup and all sorts of infomercial gadgets or creams. All right, that's my simple tips today. How to eat, move, and be healthy works for anyone that's willing to pay attention to themselves and loves themselves enough to be healthy and doesn't want to keep giving their body and their responsibility away to men and women in white coats who don't want to take them white coats off because they don't want you to see what the results of that methodology looks like. So, hey, if you want to get healthy, find someone healthy to teach you. I'm Chek, I'm healthy, and I'm here to share with you. I will talk to you soon.